Modern society has a growing crisis among young men, one defined by a general lack of purpose, discipline, and healthy connections. Challenges like loneliness, anxiety, depression, economic instability, and the absence of a strong role model have left many men searching for meaning in the age of distraction. Hey everyone, it's Mr. Armstrong here on Next Gen Archive. Today we'll be doing something a little bit different. We'll be reviewing a book by Scott Galloway titled Notes on Being a Man. If you're unfamiliar with Scott, he's an American author, entrepreneur, professor, and social commentator. He's also a leading advocate for young men in America. He's all over TikTok right now, the news, YouTube, you name it. Pretty easy to find. I suggest you look him up. I'm really excited about today, so let's jump right into it. Let's go and jump to the overview of Scott Galloway's book, Notes on Being a Man. Scott's book discusses a wide variety of topics. Obviously, I won't be able to get to all of them, but I want to try my best to give you a rundown before you do your own reading, or if you're just curious on the topic in general. Notes on Being a Man follows mostly a chronological order, stopping at pivotal and foundational moments throughout Scott's life, such as adolescence, the divorces of his parents, navigating high school and college in his early years as a young entrepreneur, to more significant events such as his failed marriage, the death of his mother, and his current life as a loving father and loving husband. The highs, the lows, successes, and failures. He uses his life not as a roadmap or a how to manual, more so as evidence to his battle scars as he climbed up the success ladder, so to speak. It's reassuring to see a success story that comes from a place of honesty and vulnerability. We're American, or at least I am. I'm not sure where you're watching this from. We can't help but love an underdog story, right? He also encourages patriotism, which I think is a breath of fresh air, especially in this political climate. Uh, he discusses taking care of your fellow citizen and countrymen as a crucial and vital part of a healthy, functional democracy. Scott also spends a considerable amount of time discussing what he believes to be one of the driving factors of this young male crisis in modern society: social media. As we know, social media companies make billions off our attention and dopamine. Polarizing content rips apart the unity of our nation, potentially making you hate your neighbor. Young boys are especially defenseless against this plague of short form content. They are constantly bombarded by images of this baller lifestyle that's clearly unattainable in the immediate, that makes them feel less than or like a failure. Discord and Reddit makes them believe that they can live a normal social life online and that they can stay inside and play video games and scroll on their phone and get the same satisfaction as going outside and hanging out with their friends. Why go through the trouble of talking to your neighbor or somebody next to you in class? It's awkward to make a new friend. Why hit the gym or join a rec league? I'm tired and it makes me sore. Why talk to the pretty girl next to you in your English literature class or economics class? Um, it's awkward and I might get rejected, right? Just stay plugged in. Clearly, we know the payoff of this is a negative one, non existent. Scott also explores themes of friendships, relationships, and vulnerability throughout the story. He uses a stat: 1 out of every 7 men report having no friends at all. He highlights the importance of genuine human connection, platonic and romantic, and refers to them as necessary. He talks about humanity as pack animals, social beings, and refers to these relationships as guardrails for young men. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing it with? Who are you doing it for? He says expressing your emotions of vulnerability is a strength. Things like empathy and patience and kindness should be seen as healthy masculinity. Being able to tell a loved one that you don't feel well or that you appreciate their company and that you miss and love them is a beautiful virtue, and that you should be expressing these emotions as much as you can. Similarly, he puts manners into the same category of needing to be worked out like a muscle and exercise and practice regularly, um, to be more consistent with these type of things. Scott spends half the book talking about fatherhood. It's clear he loves his wife and children very much, and he refers to fatherhood almost as the end goal of what being a real man should be. He talks about surplus value. Um, Scott credits his Yoda on the topic. Richard Reeves this term, and my sister will can attest to this and sure relate. But my father used to tell us, be a part of the solution, not the problem. So I'm familiar with this concept of surplus value. Your goal should be to give more, according to Scott, give more than what you take. And obviously, uh, be a part of the solution, not the problem. In sum, this book is about what it takes to be a modern man in society, the challenges young men face today, and the solutions to overcome these current struggles. Scott's delivery in his book is honesty. His tone is informal but respectable. He reminds me of a familiar mentor or teacher, which makes complete sense given his background in higher education as a professor. He uses a blend of anecdotal and data driven evidence to push his narrative along, which works really well in this context. An example from the book of some anecdotal evidence would be an email received from a mother discussing how her daughters were doing really well, career wise, education wise, off doing their own thing, while her son sat in their basement all day, ripping his vape and playing video games. Anecdotal, but relevant to the story. He also uses quite a bit of statistics to discuss what he deems relevant throughout the story. Things like the United States having the lowest life expectancy of any developed nation, while also the highest number of single family homes. He attributes this data to a lack of guardrails and purpose, predominantly in young men's lives. Even throws out a statistic saying that when a young man loses a role model in the form of a father figure, typically they're more likely to be incarcerated than to go to college, which is obviously quite tragic. Um, there's other statistics, um, particularly around deaths from despair, um, noting that men are 4 times as likely to fall into this trend as opposed to women, um, which is tragic. Um, he also throws in a statistic out there that 45% of men ages 18 to 25 have never approached a woman before in their life. This points to a lack of confidence and self worth, a clear disconnect from former social expectations and norms when he attributes this to mainly social media and, as we discussed in the overview, things revolving around that sphere and realm. Um, on a little bit less serious note, I know I just kind of talked about his delivery in terms of the analytics, or I'm sorry, statistics and anecdotal evidence. Um, Recently, I've been seeing memes. Actually, right before I started this video, on um, it's a girl typing in her notes for her expectations for her future husband, and it was like well educated, dresses nicely, has a solid stable job, opens a door for me, drives a nice car, and it's always, you know and now it's 2025 and she's deleting everything, and she's like, bare minimum stuff, has a driver's license, wears shoes sometimes, is nice to me, pays for meals occasionally. It's funny, but it's sad because, and this points to the relevancy of why people should be concerned with this, young male, I guess, issue or crisis, as Scott refers to it as, because it does affect all of us. In some, his delivery works well for this story. It feels familiar and as if a close friend is telling you a story, but still very much grounded in fact and reality, um, which does his job for sure. Now let's go and discuss the solution Scott offers. It's really quite simple, but in my opinion, extremely effective. Get off your butt, get off your phone, and get out the house. Gen Z has a saying for this already, and I'm not surprised when there's a book, as Scott is a boomer. touch grass. You shouldn't be home unless you're sleeping. Now, I do believe that's maybe a little bit extreme. I understand what he's trying to say. You shouldn't fall into the trap of getting home and immediately, taking a shower and getting in bed to the next morning. That's not healthy. It's not sustainable. Um, Scott attributes a lot of this loneliness and this maybe a bit of anxiety and depression primarily to the fact that people lack a third place. Historically, this may have been a church or like an organization, like maybe like the Rotary or something that is obviously very popular in years past. Now, what is a third place? It's anywhere but the house. So you need to go to the gym, or you need to. In my case, I go play volleyball all the time. I go play volleyball, go to the library, go to the rec, go join a club or an organization, anywhere but your house, right? And spend as much time there as much as you can, and to find one as soon as possible. He often refers to chasing slow dopamine over fast dopamine as a solution to many life's problems in terms of delayed gratification. So, in the sense, slow dopamine would be things like working out, working on a project, collaborating with your peers or your coworkers, things that typically take mental fortitude or physical strength, right? Really kind of putting your head down and going to work versus fast dopamine, which would be scrolling on your phone, eating fast food, gambling, etc. He also discusses and offers college as a solution to a lot of problem that young men face, particularly getting involved in college, such as organizations like he joined a fraternity, for example. In my opinion, I think college is a great environment to fail safely. Scott also points to positive surplus value as being a goal and having that delayed gratification by watching yourself give more than you receive is also a great solution to a lot of these problems that young men are facing today in society. All right, guys, going to jump into the final verdict and rating of Scott Galloway's project, Notes on Being a Man. Honestly, Scott can repeat himself at times. In education, we refer to this as spiraling content, is essentially where you introduce an idea and then you call back to it later and then again and again. It's used to reinforce ideas. But, in everyday terms, you may refer to this as dog. We already said that before. The book probably could be maybe 10, 15, maybe 20% shorter. This is obviously not a knock on his editor or writer at all. They are world class, I'm sure, and I could never relate. But some sections read almost like an instruction manual to his two boys, which is cool. I respect it. I mean, it's a big reason, I'm sure, as to why he decided to start his work in advocating for young men and the crisis they're currently facing. So it's a big part of it. I respect it. Nevertheless, I enjoyed this book and this project. I connect to a lot of the topics either directly through my work in education or through experiences that Scott has had that I've shared too. So I'd recommend this book to honestly most people, in particular young men who are going through that phase in their life, or mothers who feel like they can't connect to their child right now. I think it's important to gain that additional perspective. Which leads me to my next point. For those of you who maybe don't relate to this book at all, at the very least, it does offer perspective, like I mentioned before. And there's value in understanding what other people are going through and potentially the problems they face. I'd love to hear in the comments if you have any stories or any books that maybe see the opposite side in terms of any problems the younger generation of women may be facing. I'd definitely be interested in checking that out and potentially doing a book review on that myself. I'm a fan of Scott Galloway. I really am. I don't agree with everything he says necessarily. I mean, his word isn't Bible to me by any means. Um, but I generally think he tries to be a good man, and that's more than you can say about most people in the limelight and the social spotlight, so to speak. So overall, I'd give this project a solid 4 out of 5 stars. The tone and topic definitely carry this project. Um, Without a question, this crisis young men are facing in society are definitely scary and need to be addressed for a more prosperous nation and society as a whole. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed. I really do. I spent quite a bit of time on this project. This is the most time I've ever spent on a video. I know, and my channel's still kind of a little bit of a baby, but I'd really appreciate if you dropped your comments, your questions or concerns, or if you've read the book or plan to read the book, and your opinions on Scott Galloway in general. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for stopping by.